welcome back, boys. Just want to say thanks for watching the videos. We appreciate the feedback. And today's video is going to be slightly different, a little bit more serious, so there's not going to be as much creaminess in this. There might be a bit of creaminess on the oil cap, but that's all cream you're getting. So we're just going to show you the stages of how we depollute a car, what equipment we use, and a lot of the safety aspects of it as well. So this is a 2011 Nissan Juke. It's a 1.6 petrol. I think it's actually turbo as well. Now this is what we've got in for braking. I've just been given this, and the lads before me, they've done there's a process what we do, like a protocol on every car, and they'll assess the car, they'll check what's wrong with it, and then I know and the listers know what we can list and what not to list, and obviously to be careful when we're depolluting it. What information I've got is it's a 1.6 turbo petrol. The cam belt has snapped. The gearbox is okay, all the windows work, the electrics work. So the main problem with this car is the cam belt, which would have been obviously too expensive to fix anyway. That's why we've got it. But this car, the depollution process will be slightly different because we're going to break this for spares. So we'll probably show you another video of a scrap car what's getting depolluted. But as this is a brake car, things are slightly different because we're obviously valuing the parts. As you can see, it's quite a new thing. All the lights are good, the bumpers are good, and a lot of these parts will go again. So I'll show you the process of us doing this and the order we also do it in. So yeah. Right, so the first thing what we need to do with the car before it goes on the frame is anything that requires like under the bonnet work. So obviously I can't take the battery off when it's on the frame, and there's an order that we go through. So the first thing will be to remove the battery to prevent any sparks and just general safety. So that's well, 10 mil. I'm just gonna start. Should have got buzz with me there. Right. Oh, that was all right. Didn't have to do both. Right, then the terminals. And that's the battery. Battery's done. Now the next thing would be either the screen wash or the brake fluid. So we'll do the brake fluid now. So this little machine, it sucks the fluid from the reservoir, but you can also put it on the calipers on the bleeding nipples, and yeah, suck it straight out. So this would also be clutch fluid and brake fluid. Right, so we'll suck that out of there. There's not even much in it. It's just pulling it through there if you look, but there won't be much in here. Right, that's the brake fluid done. Right, so the next bit is the screen wash, which is same again, just sucking it out of the bottle. So we'll open the cap here, screen wash one, which is, I think there's a bit in. That's like that. Feed that into there, as far as it'll go, about there. And we turn on the machine, and then turn this valve. You should see it coming through this pipe now. See that? Just give that a minute, and then the only other thing to do after that would be the aircon, which now not all cars have aircon, but obviously this one does. So there's a special machine for removing the aircon, which contains the gas, and then we can actually re-gas cars with that as well. So I'll show you that in a sec. Right, I'll say that's done there. Turn that off. Turn it off here. That'll do. Right, now the aircon. So the next thing would be the aircon machine. So there's two feet here. There's that one. So unscrew them little caps, and you can get the fitting on here and this one. Now they are a pressurised system, these, so you've got to be careful, but the machine does all the work for you. Take these off here. that red one goes on there because that's a H. So push that on there. Right, so now I've screwed these two fittings on and I've tightened them up so there's no leaks. I'll turn the machine on and that'll do its thing. It will drain the gas. It can take up to 5 minutes, so we'll let that do its thing and then crack on with the rest. Right, so the aircon machine's done its thing. Aircon gas is fully empty. So now we've done the brake fluid, the screen wash, the battery and the aircon. So we'll take these off. There we go. Now the next thing would normally be, on a scrap car we would take the wheels off. But because we're breaking this and it needs to go in the garage, they're a lot easier to move and a bit more nimble when the wheels are on. So because we're breaking this, we're going to leave the wheels on. So the next stage is to get this on the frame and we'll start doing all the fluids from underneath. Right, so now the car's on the frame, there's still a few more little processes what we need to do. So there's obviously the engine oil, the antifreeze, we need to remove the cap, drain the fuel, and gearbox oil, and if there was like differentials, you'd drain the rear diff. Right, so this is just like our mini little workbench. We don't really need a massive amount of tools, we just need the essentials and the spark plug keys. So under here we always keep the keys, the locking wheel nuts, which always come in handy, the oil caps and the water caps. We just keep them just because some people sometimes need them. These little plastic bungs here are for steel tanks, because when the petrol PSR stabs the tank, it leaves a different like hole in it. And then we've got the self-drilling screws with a rubber washer for plastic tanks. So I'll show you that later on. So I'm going to start with the engine oil simply because it can actually take 5 to 10 minutes to fully drain. So because that takes the longest, we'll do it first and I can leave the drainer there and get onto something else. So we'll start off with the oil. So it looks like 15 millimeter. First of all, we'll crack the sump plug, just here. Get that on there. There we go. So now that's finger tight, that now. I'll just leave that for a second and I'll go and get the fuel drainer. Now this fuel drainer will also suck the oil from the dipstick if needed. Now, because we've got the frame and we're using the forklift, we don't really need to do that. But it's nice to have it. So this has a filter in it as well. So if you do drop the sump plug, which you shouldn't, you can always dig it back out later on. So that's all set up there. We'll just unplug, get that sump plug now. You've got to be careful you don't get oil all over your hands here. Look at it. There we go. Now you always put the sump plug back in here and I'll screw that back in later on. You need to make sure that goes back in because you'll always get a bit of excess oil which can drip out when moving the car. So we'll put that back in when that's drained. So we'll just give that 5 minutes now. So whilst the oil's draining, we're going to drain the antifreeze, the coolant, which same again, it's a very similar process. So we'll get the machine over. And now this one, this has got a spike on the end, so you've got to be careful with that. So what we're going to do, we're going to puncture the bottom holes, rad holes. So if you can see up here, I'm just going to stab that there. You've got to give it a bit of force. Just get it in there. Right. So that's in there now. So we'll turn the air on. Open this valve and you should see the antifreeze coming through the pipe. There we go. So the oil's still draining, the antifreeze is draining. I'm going to now prepare putting the catalytic converter on. So the oil's literally tiny little dribbles. I'm going to put the sump plug back in now. Right. so the engine oil is now done. The antifreeze is just nearly done. Another 2 minutes on that. And whilst the antifreeze is finishing off, I'm going to set the oil drainer now up for the gearbox oil. So the gearbox oil and the engine oil can both go in the same pan, which is handy. And the automatic transmission fluid can also go in this if it was an automatic. That's the one. Right, so I'll get the ratchet on that. Yeah, that's it. Not that off. There we go. So we'll get this out of the way, make a bit of room, and then we'll get onto the gearbox oil. We're going to crack this gearbox some and let the gearbox oil drain. So same again, we'll just crack that. Hope it's not too tight. There we go, nice and easy. And we'll just drain this. Same again, you don't really want to drop the plug in there, so just be careful with that. Right, we got it. There we go. Quite clean, that gearbox oil. So the car probably was serviced by the looks of things, because all the antifreeze was clean as well. Now this is an auto drain cap cutter. It's basically a hydraulic shear. It's running on 12 volt, 12 volt motor with a battery. I mean, we can always just charge the battery. So we bought it second hand. I mean, the blade has actually snapped. I welded that. I've got some new blades on order. But what a really good tool this is. I mean, you probably know yourself. You can cut these off with grinders, and it's not right. I mean, especially if you're draining the petrol and there's fumes and sparks, it's not what you want. Whereas this is very, very efficient. So I'll show you this in action now. So get your shear in place. So what we'll do, we hook it over the pipe like that. Get it right in there. So as soon as that's ready, we can push this button here and it'll shear straight through it. So get a nice zoom on that. So that's gone through. Make sure this don't catch your hands. So like a knife through butter really, straight through. And no sparks. That's what it's all about here. Right, we're just going to cut this little last bit now, and then you're just going to watch out for the cat dropping. Right, let it out. And there we go. So that is one cat cut off, and it's not hollow. As you can see the honeycomb in there. That's like where your precious metals are. So yeah, that's the cat. Right, so whilst we cut the cat off, the gearbox oil was draining the whole time, which is good. So that's completely empty now of oil. So I'm just going to put that sump plug back in just to stop any drips anywhere. So I'll just screw that in now. There we go. So that is done. And the next job, and the last job for this car, is the petrol. Now this, I can't stress this enough, this is the dangerous part of depollution of any car. Now I know a lot of people who drill tanks. You should never drill a tank, and for this simple reason, for sparks. Now the drills can spark, which can cause huge fires, especially if your car's on a frame like this or on the back of a recovery or in a garage or anywhere really. So not my advice, just don't drill petrol tanks. Instead of drilling, this is my advice, get one of these machines. So this machine is very basically similar to a gearbox trolley lift. Now this machine is parked up into a pump on the wall, which then decides whether the fuel's dirty or clean, or is it petrol or diesel. So for this instance, the car's a petrol, so we'll put that on petrol. I don't know if the fuel's clean yet, which we will find out. So first of all, we jack the little trolley up to the tank and apply a little bit of pressure, and it's got a foam insert on the top which just creates that seal. So we'll get that there now. So that should be good, perfect there. Now to prevent any sparks, we always earth the car out with the machine. So you'll put that on any part of the car what's metal. Now the tip of the spike is actually it's not bronze, it's brass. No, is it brass? Yeah, I think it's brass. So that was very minimal spark anyway. So first of all, we're going to stab the tank by pulling this lever. Now that's punctured the tank. When I lower the spike, you're going to see the petrol drop into the chamber. Also, I forgot to mention, just to let the flow of the petrol go a lot easier, we always open the cap on the tank with a filler neck, just so it can draw the air through. Otherwise it starts bubbling and the tank can actually compress with the suction. So it's getting a good airflow. Now if you look here in the chamber, that fuel to me looks dirty. I wouldn't want to put that in our tank. So what I'm going to do, now this valve also, that's stopping the fuel going in yet, so it gives you time to decide. So I'm going to put that in dirty. So over here, I'm going to flick the lever to dirty, petrol. So that's going in the dirty petrol tank, which we've got over there. I'm going to turn the pump on. So everything's ready, we're all set to go. All I need to do is open the chamber and that will suck the petrol out. Just like that. Right, so we're going to turn the pump off now, because the fuel's fully drained. So all we need to do now is lower the tank, not the tank, sorry, the machine, and get one of these little self-drilling screws in with a rubber washer, just to stop any last little drips. We'll get that in there, make sure we nip it up, nice and tight like that. Now that will not leak any more petrol, and yeah, that's it, the car is fully depolluted. Right, so this Nissan Juke is now fully depolluted and ready for braking. So because of that, we can now store this in the car, in the yard, with no issues, and there's no contamination risks from this car. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, hope you've learned a little bit, and it's given you some knowledge on how to depollute the car and how we do it, and the equipment involved. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do. And we're finding out that a lot of viewers who are watching these videos, 70% of you are not subscribed. The hell are you doing, boys? Enjoy.